Hey guys, back again with another video, a review on Splatoon 2 for the Nintendo Switch. I actually haven't bought in too many Switch games. There's a lot of cool stuff coming out soon. The Mario Rabbids games, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, at least I hope. Mario Odyssey, I'm really excited for. But yeah, the only three games I have for the Switch at the moment are Binding of Isaac Rebirth, Cave Story Plus, which I did a review on not too long ago, and Splatoon 2. I know Mario Kart and Zelda are the two big games that everyone that has a Switch pretty much has. But you know, I played Zelda on the Wii U and Mario Kart. I really liked Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U, but I don't know. I don't really feel the need to buy it again, like a simple updated version of it. And then there's other stuff like Street Fighter that I just have no interest in. And then ARMS, which I want to play. I do want to play ARMS. It's just too expensive for what it is, especially in Canada. So I'm waiting for a price drop that's never going to happen because it's a Nintendo game. But Splatoon 2, I did end up buying this full price because Splatoon, the original on the Wii U, is a game I always wanted to play. And for whatever reason, I just never got around to picking it up. So I thought the sequel would be a great choice, and it always looked like a really fun, unique game to me that I really wanted to play. It definitely looks a bit more appealing than ARMS for me, and then ARMS doesn't really have any kind of story mode to it, where this has a campaign mode, a short one though, but I've heard it's really good, as with the first game. Apparently the campaign was like shockingly good in that game, even though it was really short. And it's definitely, I would say, the same case here. Now, I guess the interesting thing with Splatoon is this, you know, it's a sequel, but I guess a lot of people are saying that it's not a huge improvement from the first one. It feels more like a Splatoon 1.5. But for me, it was such a new experience that I really enjoyed the game. I probably enjoyed it more than a lot of people would have, like compared to the first game, for instance. But the people that really got into the online mode of the first game are probably going to find a lot to enjoy with this one. But I guess right off the bat, shocking opinion here, probably a controversial opinion. Splatoon is known for the online multiplayer. That's where I think a lot of the game's longevity comes from, especially since Nintendo is really good with updating it and adding new content to it months after release. So my controversial opinion here is that the single player is actually better than the multiplayer. I much prefer the campaign in this game to the multiplayer. Not that the multiplayer is bad. In fact, it's actually really enjoyable. And for someone that's has never really been into online multiplayer, especially competitive online multiplayer, I was really surprised by how much fun I was having with it, especially when you play with friends. And it is a game that I'm going to come back to ever so often, but the campaign is where I had the most fun with this game, and I guess that's where we would start with this review. Story, there's really not much to say here. This is not, like with the first game, it's not a very story focused game. I mean, it has a single player campaign with a very minor story where you got to like basically take down these evil enemies called the Octarians, I think they're called. It's a very paper thin story. There's really not a whole lot to it. It does have some charming parts to it. I really love the style that this game has, and a lot of the characters that are in the game have really funny lines. The game has a really great sense of humor to it, but it's the story, you know, it's not a super involved story, but I think it works for this type of game. The campaign basically has you just going through levels and like different hub worlds with a very thin story kind of connecting all of the different levels. But the gameplay is where it's at for this game, and we're basically just going to jump into the gameplay because there's not really too much else to say about the story. I mean, the only one thing I would bring up is every time you start the game, you have to go through all this dialogue between two characters, basically telling you about all the events that are going on and things like that. That's really annoying. I wish you could skip that shit. It's actually kind of irritating to have to go through with that stuff every time you start up the game. So I tend to just leave the system in sleep mode and never take the cartridge out of my Switch. But anyways, moving on to gameplay. What a unique concept this game is. Nintendo, you know, taking a third-person shooter, team-based third-person shooter, and going crazy with it. Where the main mode in this game, and we'll start with the multiplayer, I think here. The main mode is Turf War, where basically it's 4v4, and you have all like these certain different weapons that basically spray ink all over the environments. And the objective of the game is to basically cover the most amount of the map compared to the other team. And obviously, different weapons are better in different situations, and you also got a little bit of combat thrown in there when you're fighting other people on the opposite team. And then one of the main mechanics of the game is basically being able to swim kind of underneath your ink that you've spread throughout the environment. And from there you can do cool jumps, and then each weapon has all sorts of different abilities. And one of the new things with Splatoon 2 is that there's basically sub-weapons, so sub-attacks for each weapon. And obviously there's a lot of new weapons that were added to the game. And basically moving around the environment is really fun in this game, and it's the combat even it's nothing crazy or anything like that, but it's pretty fun when you basically like explode enemies on the opposite team, and it's just an interesting twist on like the third person team based shooter. Teamwork is definitely a major part of this game, but unfortunately there's no voice chat. There is matchmaking, which is good, but if you want to do voice chat, but you basically have to come up with a team on your own, and then basically go on. What I did was just go on the PS4 and then switch to the Switch while I was in party chat on PS4. Or you can use the online app that Nintendo just brought out, which apparently is an utter disaster. There's people have already talked about tons of the major problems with it. Where you can't basically run anything else on your phone while the app is running, it will close and you'll get disconnected from the voice chat. You can't power off your phone; you have to keep it on. You can't let it go into sleep mode or anything like that, or the voice chat gets disconnected. It's lacking a lot of features. Like Splatoon 2 is a really fun online game, but fuck, man, Nintendo really needs to figure this shit out. They've been so behind on this shit for so long now. It honestly blows my mind that they just have to be different, and they have to, I guess, I don't know, protect kids from playing so that they don't hear bad, like, strong language. I don't know. It's fucking irritating. I'm really annoyed with the way Nintendo handles online. This game, there's no reason for this game not to have built-in voice chat. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. And it goes further than that too with the online. The matchmaking can be very annoying. You can't just simply join like a friend's game unless like the match has got a few open slots. You can't just make a party on your own and have your friends join it, and then from there you can be on the same team and get into matches against other players. There's no way to actually be on your friend's team 100% of the time. You can join the same game as them, but often you're just going to kind of switch between being on the enemy team or with your friend. And I don't get that. It's such a baffling design decision. And not only that, you can't change your loadout between matches. You can't do anything between matches, in fact. You can't even, it's basically, you just got to wait until the next match starts. And a lot of the times, you can't even quit while you're in, the matchmaking. You're basically stuck there, and you have to play out the match before you can actually quit. Which I can understand, not being able to quit a match or during actually playing the game. People will disconnect, disconnect their internet to do that, and that I definitely don't think you should be able to do. And in fact, if you end up doing that a bunch of times in a row, the game will actually give you a message saying something's fishy with your connection. If this keeps happening, we're gonna actually ban you from playing for a little bit, which I like that. But I don't know, not being able to change your loadout between matches is just absolutely ridiculous, especially with how many weapons there are in this game and how much equipment there is. Which that's another thing I didn't really talk about. There's a lot of equipment you can buy in this. You basically level up while you play online matches, and you'll unlock more weapons the more you level up. Which that can cause a little bit of balance problems. I've never been a big fan of unlocks in games, especially when really overpowered weapons are locked later. So basically, people that play the most and grind out the most are going to have an advantage, which that I've never been a big fan of. But yeah, not being able to switch loadouts between matches is fucking ridiculous. And I don't know, there's just so many baffling design decisions like that with the games online. And there's another mode in this game that was added specifically for Splatoon 2. It wasn't in the original, and that's Salmon Run. And this is actually a really cool twist on a horde mode, which I'm so sick of horde modes in online games. And leave it to Nintendo to find a way to put a fresh spin on it, where it's basically there's a bunch of different mini bosses you'll fight. And again, it's the game. You've got the game's core concept, the whole ink thing, which kind of keeps it fresh. And then it's basically there's a lot of cool upgrades in the mode, and I like the way how the waves progress in it. It's just this really cool version of a horde mode. Unfortunately, you can only play it at certain times. You can't just boot up Splatoon 2 and immediately hop into Salmon Run. It's only available during certain times, and at least in the Eastern time zone, it's on extremely late. It's never on at an appropriate time. So honestly, I never actually got to play it all that much. It is easier to play it with friends than the Turf War mode is, but I don't know. It's a shame because it's actually a really cool mode, and for most of the time you can't actually play it. I really don't understand the decision behind this. It makes no fucking sense to lock out such a major portion of the game. Like, why? I just don't understand it. I don't know. There's all these really baffling design decisions in this game that just, I don't know. It's so frustrating that Nintendo does shit like this. But yeah, the online in this game is quite fun. I do get a little tired of it after playing for so long. I can't play it for extended periods of time. And this is common with online multiplayer games for me. I just get a little bored with them after a while, but it is a nice pick up and play game that you can get going back to. And there's so many different unlocks in this game that you could potentially be playing it forever. And then again, Nintendo's always constantly updating it, which is great. Again, like with Splatoon 1, though, the maps, there's only a couple maps you can play at any given time. They kind of rotate in and out, which, again, is a little annoying. I just wish all the maps were available at every time, and it just randomly chose them. Or if it had some kind of system like the Halo games where you could veto certain maps within the matchmaking. It's just, I don't know, the game, for such an online-focused game, it's missing so many key components that other online games have had for so long. I don't know, it's definitely a little frustrating, but let's move on to the single player. And I guess one cool thing about this game, with the whole game style, there's kind of like a hub world you can walk around in, and you can go to shops, and all the NPCs are really interesting, and you see Miiverse posts, like the highest rated Miiverse posts, and they're pretty hilarious, I gotta say. Some of them really made me laugh. And then an event just happened not too long ago, a Splatfest event, which again is cool. I like how Nintendo has all these different events, where it was like a mayo versus ketchup kind of event, which was really cool. I never understand how anyone prefers mayo to ketchup. I mean, I like mayo, but come on, ketchup, man. But anyways, I thought it was a cool little event that happened not too long ago. And I'm definitely looking forward to some of the other events that happen as well. Again, Nintendo does a good job of keeping things interesting within this game. And the longevity is going to be definitely a key aspect to it, like the first Splatoon. But single player. Single player in this game is fucking awesome. I loved it. I was genuinely surprised by how much I enjoyed it. Where basically you have 5 different hub worlds where you have to actually find the entrances to the levels, and they're actually hidden quite well, and you have to smartly use your abilities, your ink abilities, and different weapon types to find these level unlocks, which I actually liked. Some people might be turned off by that, but I liked it. And once you get into these levels, you basically go kind of from point A to point B. You have lives and checkpoints. If you run out of all 3 lives, you'll have to do the whole level over again. But lives are easy to get throughout the levels. Anytime you reach a new checkpoint, you'll get a life. You'll collect a bunch of different collectibles throughout the levels that kind of feed into the single player as well, or the multiplayer, I should say, as well, where you can basically get tickets to basically give you little bonuses for the online, which I liked as well. And then you'll get golden weapons if you keep beating the campaign with certain weapon types, which I liked as well. What I love about the single player in this is a typical Nintendo thing. This Nintendo is so good at this, and that is introducing new concepts and ideas and then building on them throughout a level. The game rarely reuses concepts, and like with, say, like the Mario Galaxy games, and the level design is incredibly clever in this game. A lot of the enemy types are very interesting as well, and how you have to deal with them. There's a lot of cool gimmicks that this game has as well. In particular, I love the rails, like the jet grind radio style rails that you ride on, and you have to basically like shoot enemies while riding them. You've got a bunch of different puzzles you'll find throughout the campaign as well. And it's not easy. One of the surprising things was that it wasn't a complete joke. This game has a really excellent difficulty curve. Towards the end, it gets pretty tough. Figuring out how to kind of traverse the environment can be pretty tricky, and there's a lot of tough platforming challenges. One of the cool things with the single player in this is that it's a cool mix of like a platformer and then a third-person shooter, because there's a lot of segments where you'll actually have to have pretty good aim. And there's all sorts of little cool details with like the ink and how it works, where if you like splat ink on a climbable surface and you shoot it high up, the ink will kind of like fall down towards the bottom. And there's all sorts of cool little visual things I love. There's like these sponges that you'll find that will basically grow in size the more you spray it with ink. And then you kind of use your ink squid ability to kind of climb up surfaces. There's all sorts of different cool surprises throughout this campaign that I don't really want to spoil. The boss battles are excellent as well, really unique, each one different from the last. And the way this campaign forces you to use certain weapons is great as well. You'll actually learn the different weapon types, and each level is kind of built around these weapons, whether it be like the roller or the sniper rifle. And it teaches you to use them in some really interesting and fun ways, and you'll get better with them, and it's cool because you'll want to bring them into this multiplayer, and you'll feel like you have more skill with these weapons. Man, this single player is really impressive. It's super clever. It's very creative. I really enjoyed it. It's short. It's not going to last you too long, but honestly, I think it's a good length. And again, the way the campaign builds concepts is great. You can kind of upgrade your weapons throughout the campaign as well, which is really cool. The only thing that kind of annoyed me about it was the final boss. The final boss was a little irritating. It's a really long battle that goes on forever, and if you lose if you lose even one life, you have to start over from the very beginning, unless you reach a predetermined checkpoint within the fight. So I took on this boss with, you basically have to use the default weapon for the final boss, and I didn't upgrade the fire rate on it at all. I upgraded my ink capacity in this game, but not the fire rate. And honestly, I must have fought this boss like 30 times, and I could not fucking beat him. I couldn't even get to the first checkpoint. I just kept dying over it and over and over again. His attacks were so hard to avoid, and I was not dealing enough ink damage to his fists that you have to basically kind of send back at him to hit him. So anyways, basically what I had to do was grind out one of the collectibles to upgrade your weapon. I had to grind out a bunch of them and play levels I'd already played before, which I didn't mind too much because I like the level design in the single player so much. But anyways, I had to grind a bunch of collectibles and upgrade the default weapon, and then all of a sudden I beat the final boss first try. It's crazy how much it helped, actually. So yeah, if you're struggling with the final boss, upgrade the default weapon. And in fact, right from the beginning, don't neglect upgrading the default weapon. The rest of the bosses aren't too bad, and they're really fun. It's just the final boss. Make sure you upgrade that default weapon, because honestly, I think it's near impossible without it. I really don't understand how you could actually do it without it. I mean, I suppose it is possible. It would just take forever, and you would really have to try your hardest to avoid getting hit, which is quite difficult. But anyways, other than that, I really loved the campaign. I do have to question, though, because I've heard the single player in the first game is amazing as well. I do have to question if people that play this game after the first one probably won't be as blown away by it as I was, because I think it shares a lot of similar themes. It's very similar, from what I understand, to the first game's campaign. So yeah, if you've played the first game, maybe it won't be such a big surprise. But for someone like me that's starting the series with this game, I honestly I was quite blown away by it. I was really surprised by it, and again, like I said, I had much more fun with it than I did the multiplayer, which again, unpopular opinion, I'm sure, but I don't know. I just was really impressed with the single player in this game. Okay, so moving on to the visuals, man, I love the way this game looks. It's so colorful, it's so vibrant, it's got such a great style to it. I love the character designs, I love the environment designs, I love all the different colors of ink, I love the enemy designs. It looks fantastic. I really love the look of this game. It's the art style is really great as well. It does remind me a little bit of like the Jet Set Radio games, but it especially looks amazing on the gamepad screen, the Switch gamepad screen. Honestly, I don't use the Switch in handheld mode too often. I actually prefer just playing the Switch on the TV. I use it more as a console, but I did try the game briefly on the handheld, and oh my god, man, the quality, like the screen quality, it's crystal clear, like really sharp image quality. And Splatoon 2 in particular looks amazing on it. Unfortunately, I do think the Joy-Con controls are a little annoying for this game. I will say, actually, I did play this game with the Pro Controller. That was my preferred way of playing this game. There is motion controls, and I know a lot of people swear by them in this game, especially for the multiplayer. I tried them. I really tried. I can't stand them. Honestly, I've never liked motion controls. I think I've rarely enjoyed them more than another control method in another game. The only two games I can think of, really, that I liked motion controls in were Skyward Sword, because it was built around them, and then Metroid Prime Trilogy, actually. I do prefer with the Wii pointer controls. But Splatoon 2, nah, I couldn't do it. Super awkward, and it just, I don't know, I did not care for it. But the standard controls for this game are great, and the Pro Controller in particular, man, do I love that controller. It is probably one of my favorite controllers of all time. Like, I think that is such an amazing controller. If you don't have one and you have a Switch, go buy one. Like, you will not be disappointed, and Splatoon 2 plays beautifully with it. But anyways, back to visuals. Love the game, the way this game looks. I think it's one of the best parts of the game. Whether in single player or multiplayer, it's just, man, top-notch presentation. The music, on the other hand, I'm kind of iffy on it. It's very like it reminds me of like kids' cartoons from back in the day. It's got a very like kid-friendly soundtrack to it with a lot of like vocals thrown in there, like kids' vocals, and it's very like upbeat, really like happy, cheery music. It's not really my style. I'm not super into it. There's a few songs here and there that I kind of like, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I suppose it fits the game. It's just really not for me. It's really not my type of music. I kind of find it to be grating, honestly. In fact, I was very tempted. I didn't look through the options if you actually can, but I was tempted so often to just turn off the music completely. The sound effects are great, though. I love the sound effects in this game for all like the different weapons. Even the sound of just splatting the ink all over the environment, and when you actually splat your enemies in multiplayer and single player, it's just really punchy, great sound effects. I do really love the sound design in this game. I think it's really well done. But yeah, presentation-wise, yeah, it's a really stellar game presentation-wise. It's just the music that's kind of not really my cup of tea. But anyways, that will about do it for Splatoon 2. Do I recommend it for people that have a Switch? I mean, if you haven't played the first game, I think it's a stronger recommendation. I had a great time with it. I definitely can see myself coming back to it, and it's especially fun with friends. It's just, I don't know, it's an online competitive multiplayer game, and as unique as it is, it does get a little tiring and a little old fairly quickly for me. But the campaign is where it's at, man. I was blown away by the campaign, and I think that was worth it for me. And for U.S. prices, I think it's well worth playing it, paying the full retail price. It's just if you played the first game and you got tired of it after a certain point, then it's a little bit of a tougher recommendation, because it really does feel, I think, in a lot of ways like a 1.5. It doesn't feel like a true sequel in a lot of ways, and a lot of the online decisions, like switching loadouts, the salmon run being locked off constantly, the voice chat issues, like that stuff is a bummer. I really wish, like, that's stuff they could have easily fixed from the first game. And actually, I don't know about the loadouts, though. I feel like someone told me that eventually they added in the ability to change loadouts in the first game. So then that's equally baffling that they went back to having it not in the game for Splatoon 2, a sequel. But I don't know. I do think that they could have made a lot more improvements to this game, and it's not like an incremental improvement gameplay-wise or mechanic-wise from the first one, but at the end of the day, it's just such a unique game. It's unlike anything out there, and I appreciate that. I really appreciate games that are original and doing something different. And in that instance, yeah, I think it's an easy game to recommend. It really depends on the type of player you are, though, and how much you played the original Splatoon. But definitely some of the most fun I've had on my Switch, for sure. But anyways, that's it, guys. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.